We are now listening to the talk Police 2.0, Peaceful Activism is Terrorism, and Fake News are Facts. I'm very excited. Have fun, and the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Welcome. So this talk is by me, Laurie Rousey, and Frank van der Linde, but we also wanted to mention that this talk would not exist if it were not for Romain Lano from State Watch, because he made us meet and he is working a lot with us. All right, so just a bit of an intro about myself. So I am the founder of the organization Data Rights. Data Rights is a very new organization. It welcomed its first employee this year. I am the first employee, and welcome, first employee. And thank you. And so the genesis of the organization is actually finding its roots in a coalition of organizations, including La Quadrature du Net in France. When we had the terrorist attacks in 2015, the idea was to really sue the state against the intelligence law reforms to really infuse some human rights into the balancing that was set, which was lovely. We had a lot of victories. It was really a fascinating experience, but also we were volunteers. So it was very much unsustainable. So at some point we agreed that the journey had to end, and some of us parted ways and agreed that there was actually a need for an organization that is sustainable to work on these issues. And so this is very much where Data Rights comes from. And we also agreed that we actually needed to look at the entirety of Europe instead of just France. So this is where we came from, and we agreed to have a strategy. So just to let you know, the talk that we're doing is associated with Defend the Defenders, which has a focus on journalists and environmental activists. And without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic to Frank. But before I do this, just to let you know the articulation of our talk. So we're going to go over the Tribulations of Frank, and then I'm going to take a bit of a step back to look at Europe in general. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon already. So I'm from the Netherlands, this so-called liberal and tolerant country next to Germany. We had the first gay marriage, which of course was very progressive. But basically, the Netherlands is very good in marketing. We know how to sell our country as liberal and tolerant, but we are not. As now is quite known to the rest of the world with the upcoming of Geert Wilders, the extreme right-wing party. And I started speaking out against the rise of extreme right-wing already in 2013, which created a lot of death threats, and also circulated my photo with my address on the internet. The Dutch police made an analysis at some point, and they kind of downplayed the risks. However, now from documents from the Secret Service, it's proven that the death threats were quite serious anyways. And also from documents which were leaked from within the municipality of Amsterdam to me, comes out that they were really worried about the death threats, but not so much about what happened to me, but with the media impact that would cause. I lost my apartment in Amsterdam, the rental apartment, in 2016, because my neighbors got very scared as well. And together with the landlord, they forced me out of my apartment because I was endangering the lives of my neighbors because of my activism. And now this guy has the biggest party in the parliament, although thank God the coalition partners didn't want him to become the prime minister. It's of course insane that they formed a coalition government with this party anyways. But they put forward a civil servant, Dick Schoof, who's serving as now as Prime Minister in the Netherlands. He was the former head of the Dutch Secret Service, and more importantly for this talk, he was the National Coordinator for Security and Counterterrorism. This organization shared information about me with references to extremism to Australia, Canada, Spain, Belgium, Germany, and which countries more, we don't know yet, who is a developing story. In 2021, it came out that this organization was doing all this illegally. And Dick Schoof, the current Prime Minister, most likely was aware of the illegal practices of this organization. In 2024, this year, they apologized to me that this was illegal what they did, and they offered me a compensation of €1,000, and I asked if they... Yeah, I asked if they forgot 1 or 2 zeros, but that was not the case. So Germany was informed, and they asked also after that information from the Dutch police about me. And the same period, the Dutch police collected a lot of data about me from the start of my activism in 2013 till today. And in the same time, in the same time period, right-wing blogs started inciting against me and creating a lot of fake news, which ended up in the police files as facts. How this can happen, it's not so difficult to imagine. So I start sending rectification requests to the Dutch police, and the Dutch police, of course, didn't want to rectify those fake news. This, for them, meanwhile, facts. So I went to court, and the court overruled that and forced the police to rectify it anyways. But the damage was done already, because the mayor at that time, 2017, put me under surveillance and framed me as an extremist. And the police, on their behalf, as part of this decision of the mayor of Amsterdam, gave me a so-called CTAR 04 code. I became a CTAR 04 subject, which stands for counterterrorism, extremism, and radicalization, and 04 is left-wing. That triggered that cops in plain clothes followed me at the street to find out where I was staying, because I didn't have a house anymore. So I was a nomad, so I was staying at different places, but they wanted to know where I was sleeping at night. Also that, after pressure of the court, was judged illegal, but they didn't want to apologize for it, so the National Ombudsman in the Netherlands is now putting pressure on the police to take my complaints about it seriously. So I was this CTAR 04 subject, and that triggered as well that the Dutch police sent again to Germany all kind of information, and also to Europol. And this information was classified as crime area terrorism. The reason that it was classified as terrorism is because in the Siena system, this sophisticated email system, which the police forces in Europe use to exchange information, they have to choose a crime area. So it can be organized crime or human trafficking or terrorism. And the fact, of course, why they cannot choose activism, because I tell you a little secret, activism is not a crime. And even if sometimes there is civil disobedience and certain little aspects are illegal, then definitely it's not on the level that you can share with other countries. So they had to find a solution, and the solution, the justification the police came with, this is literally what they said in a court case on paper. You know, we could not tick box anything else, so we tick box terrorism. Yeah, it's that shocking, I think, and funny. So I asked the Germans, okay, this information classified as terrorism is sent to you guys, so what did you do with it? And they said, keine Daten. Europol, same thing. I asked for my file, and Europol said, like, well, we don't have any data. Well, I filed a complaint at the European Data Protection Supervisor, and he investigated it seriously, and he found out that Europol deleted my data after they received my access request and sent me a letter that they didn't have data. Yeah. I mean, the best way, it's really nice how Politico framed it, you know. The EDPS investigation found that Europol thought that deleting his data could be a solution to the problem of his access request. Well, yeah, okay. So what was sent to Europol and to the Bundeskriminalamt, for instance, that it had something to do with a bomb, which later was proven by pressure of the court, not true. but it is already in the systems of Europol and the Bundeskriminalamt. So also because I was this CTAR 04 subject, Interpol was informed, and the notice was collect data discreetly. I find this out because I asked also information from the border police. Of course, after I found this out, I asked the prosecutor, the main prosecutor, what the heck, how is this possible? But they don't know anymore because they deleted my file. Instead of notifying me when they stopped with monitoring me on the international level, they had to send me a letter, we did this, but we didn't find anything, so we stopped with it. This is the procedure. But instead of that, they deleted my file. And also the prosecutor has no memory about it anymore. Yeah. The Dutch DPA already said many times that this is not okay. They should document very good if they do such a very severe thing. But the Dutch government doesn't give a shit, basically. They just keep doing these things all the time. So I sued the Dutch government already 265 times. And wow. Yeah, and a judge cynically said already last year, and still counting. And the first documents I got was kind of this. So I start putting pressure on the Dutch government by doing all kind of sit-ins in different positions, in different locations, and to be honest, in my police file is now written, don't try to arrest him because he causes too much problem. Yeah. So things change when the municipality ombudsman start investigating my case. But more importantly, Yuri Begaya, a cop, a police officer from the Amsterdam police, blew a whistle and went to the press and testified under oath in court in favor of me. And that triggered the court of Amsterdam to take my case more seriously. And they appointed a digital forensic IT expert to search within the systems of the police to my police file, to finally get my total file at least sent to the court, because the court literally said, we're fed up of finding out that all the time there is more data. And if we don't do this kind of things, we will be busy with this case in 6 years still. However, the Dutch police is saying, okay, we don't cooperate with this forensic expert, we don't give him access to our systems, and that triggered, meanwhile, questions in the parliament. And one of the questions is this question: does the minister share the opinion that the police must adhere to court rulings? This is where we are. This is how far we have sunk as the Netherlands in 2024. And this is, of course, a constitutional crisis because the judicial branch should always be possible to check, to judge the executive branch, which is now blocked basically by this position of the police. The minister was asked these questions. He is not willing yet to overrule the decision of the police. We will see what happens. These questions in Parliament were only from the 5th of December this year, so he has more time, so a few more weeks' time to answer these questions. We have to see what kind of answers he will come up with. So is this a violation of Article 13 of the European Convention of Human Rights? Well, which stands for effective remedy. Well, maybe there will be a remedy at some point, but effective, for sure, it was not. That's for sure. So I advise you all, cover your face. Don't never get into the systems of the police, because then you're basically screwed. However, the question is if covering your face is enough, because all police forces now are equipped with infrared cameras in combination with facial recognition, and they look through your covering, your face covering, so they can find out who you are anyways. So this is my story so far. It's developing. If you want to stay updated, then sign up for my newsletter, and I will keep you updated about how this develops further. Thank you very much. And I give the floor, of course, to Laurie again.
All right, and so now we're going to take a step back and look at general European trends. So the first one is the loss of presumption of innocence. So this is something that is very interesting when you see the reports of attorneys representing activists. They feel that the activists are not anymore granted the right to the presumption of innocence, which, thinking about it, in rule of law based democracies, that's a building block. So it's a bit of a pickle. Also, populism to legitimize violence. So this is something that I think more and more countries in Europe are starting to see. So I put eco-terrorists as an example because I think many of us are starting to see this weird word. Just to give you an example, in France last year, 2023, we had big demonstrations because there was this movement to kind of privatize water and save it for the industry in times of drought. And so there were big demonstrations, so we called them the water wars in France. And then when that was happening, then the authorities started saying, oh my God, there were so many violent people, they're coming from all around Europe, they were just here to pick up a fight. And I mean, that's scary. And luckily, the oldest French human rights organization actually sent observers, and then when the report was published, well, that was damning. So first of all, they were like, well, we've not seen any, so I don't know, maybe they were busy that day, I don't know. But also, they were saying, they looked at the numbers of casualties because they noticed that there was a casualty that was added by the authorities to really illustrate how violent it had been. So this policeman ended up in hospital, and so they dug a little bit into it. They really wanted to understand what happened. Turns out this dude opened his tear gas weapon in his own mask, and so ended up in hospital. And then the authorities were like, this was so violent. Well, you are very violent, and this is turning against you. So another one is fake data and amplification of facts. So Frank's case is very illustrative, so you don't need more, but just to say we're talking a lot with Spain, and there's this organization in Spain, Iridia, they keep on having to fight reports written by the police where there's actually fake details against people. We also have stuff like this in France. And then last but not least, disproportion. So I said resources, but actually it starts earlier. Disproportion of criminal charges used to start investigating people. And so typically in France, the charges that they will be using are terrorism charges and organized crime charges. So they say, well, we suspect these people of this. And then this really starts the full-on investigation for a terrorist investigation. So, surveillance and going through people's life, turning it upside down. So this breaks the community. So, by the end of the process, when it hits the judges usually always remove the charges, but the harm is done. The communities are broken, and the chilling effect on people is real. And last but not least, on violations. So you might have heard a few years ago there was this huge scandal in the UK where they had sent undercover police officers to really infiltrate environmental groups. And they were not only sabotaging, but also they were targeting women to get involved into relationship with them. Many stayed for years with these people lying and surveilling them. One of them even got a baby. And the undercover officer was very excited. And then after a few years, he just disappeared out of nowhere. Also, if you want to see how institutionalized sexism looks like, this is exactly it. Anyways, there's a great CCC talk on this, so I'm not going to talk about it more. But Iridia, the Spanish organization I mentioned, last year they blew the whistle because actually they found that it had started again in Spain. Between 2020 and 2022, they noticed that something similar was happening with police officers infiltrating the groups of activists. So this is completely absurd, and it completely erodes trust. I mean, what a great use of public money. And so now let's look at what international organizations are also starting to say, because they're also joining this conversation now. So first of all, Privacy International is about to release a report on violations to the right to protest. I've covered France in this report, and so I'm very excited. They are very happy for us to say that basically their report, that is international, is very much echoing Frank's case, but also what is happening in Spain. And the report is going to be published in the middle of January. And there is also this convention that was created by the UN in 1998, the Aarhus Convention. So this is a convention that was meant to empower people to start protecting the environment and fight for the protection of the environment. They realized that it was not going exactly how they imagined. So a few years ago, they actually appointed a rapporteur to start documenting the issues that were met. And very excitingly, this rapporteur has published their report this year. So this is a quote from the report. Basically, the states are really using a lot of their resources to repress environmentalists, not so much to protect them and enable them to use this right that is actually theirs. So that's the exact name of the report. That's a bit of a mouthful. And spoiler alert, one of the big recommendations of the report is that the UN rapporteur is recommending that states, instead of using this money to repress environmentalists, start using these resources to actually take actions to deal with the climate crisis. I know, original. In this report, he's also highlighting something that, as Europeans, I think many of us have actually not seen, which is the EU has started including in their report about terrorism, they are starting to include environmental activism, and they're saying that what corresponds to extremists about the environment are people caring about climate change and the use of resources. So I would imagine most of us are terrorists, but if everyone is a terrorist, then maybe nobody is. I don't know, I'm a bit lost. But yeah, basically that's what the rapporteur is saying. It really sounds like someone caring about science and climate change becomes a terrorist, which is, I don't know, it's intriguing. And so I think the rapporteur was a little bit annoyed and so started saying, okay, how to actually empower people. And so I like the fact that he even thought, I'm actually going to remind everyone of the notion of civil disobedience. And so this is a fundamental right that we all have. So I put the references here, but just so you know, in the definition, 2 points I think are particularly interesting: deliberate law breaking and non-violent. And I really like the fact that the rapporteur thought actually around violence, because this is also very much used against protesters. Let's just go even deeper. What is non-acceptable violence? And so typically, sometimes authorities are using the excuse of violence to say, well, we had to dismantle the protest. So that's very interesting, because then he goes into this and says, well, if you have a few random people that are violent, it's really not a reason to prevent everyone from using their fundamental rights. And then another one, which I think is very important for all of us to be mindful of. So obviously violence against people is never allowed, but a certain degree of violence vis-a-vis buildings and goods is actually tolerable, symbolic violence. And so he gives the examples. One of the examples that I think is interesting, so I mentioned the water wars in France. So what happened is that some activists, they took some of the pipes for the water, and they took them and they put them in front of the town hall. So this was really symbolic. And so he is really insisting on this and saying this is absolutely legal. International law actually protects this. So this is where we're nearing the end of the talk, and so I really wanted to say this is very much something that we wanted to do to add our voice to what international organizations are starting to do, to say this is going crazy. We should not let this happen. It is absolutely normal that people react to climate change. But that being said, we also wanted to highlight what Frank has experienced, which is someone, a whistleblower, within law enforcement that chose to blow the whistle even though he knew that he would lose his job. And last but not least, I also wanted to mention that in France, because I was doing the report, helping with the report of Privacy International, I could see that in the middle of September, we had a ruling from the top criminal court of France who said, you know what I mentioned about disproportion? So they said, actually, using completely crazy criminal charges against activists, just because you want to scare them off and destroy their life, that is now in itself a violation of their human rights. And so I'm just saying this because I think it's useful for other countries. Thank you very much, and we will be delighted to have your questions.
Thank you very much for this shocking and funny talk. We have quite a lot of time for a Q&A, so I hope you have questions or comments. We have 6 microphones in the room, in the front, in the middle, and in the back, so use them. And we have a signal angel with, hopefully, questions from the internet. And maybe you start with a question from the internet. Or was this just a high waving to say hello? It was to say hello? Okay, so we start with a question from this microphone.
Hi. So I'll ask the question, I think I'll ask at every talk. What can a normie like me do?
One more time?
What can a normie like me do about it? What can you recommend me to be active or how to fight against that?
Like normal people like you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
So what's the question?
What can normal people like him, like us
do? Okay.
do? You want to answer?
Question, yeah. Well, yeah, I said already something about it in my talk. Never end up in the database of the police. But that's not so easy now anymore. So I think we should really organize together and stand up more severe, more harsh towards our governments with protests. Also, not only protests for the climate or against the rise of extreme right wing, but also protests against surveillance. And this should be really much stronger. Because if indeed police forces are equipped with infrared and facial recognition, wow, then it becomes really hard to not end up in the database of the police. And so I'm to be honest, I'm very worried about it. Another advice could be just don't speak out anymore. You know, I say it very cynically, of course, because it's not what we want. But I know that a lot of people are really scared to still speak out. You see it many times. People are going to a demonstration a few times. They get in problems with the police, and you don't see them anymore. And that is also, in a way, logic, because if you are a little bit longer an activist and you speak out and you are a little bit seen by the police as sticking out a little bit from the big all the people in the demonstration, these are the people who they focus on, of course. And how to protect ourselves. It would be. I hope to hear a lot in other talks the coming days what we can do with this subject. Yeah.
And if I may also add something, so this is typically the reason why I had these few slides on basic principles, because I think knowing your rights and helping others to know their rights is also very useful. Frank would not be here if he had actually realized that this was not meant to be like this. You know, this is a starting point. And I think also caring for people that are picking up the fights is because the things that I was reading about, farmers giving tools and then realizing that they might be associated with organized crimes. This is really scary for them. But I think this is a way of resisting, to really lend a hand and care for people that are on the front line. And I could see that the people that were on the front line, they were having teams of attorneys that they were pulling together, and so that they could all call.
Okay, next question from over there, please.
Yes. Hi. Thanks, Laurie. Thanks, Frank, for your talk. It was very good. So I'm wondering, Frank, you don't seem like Edward Snowden. You know, you don't seem that dangerous. So, you know, with respect, of course. So I'm very surprised to see why would states allow themselves to so blatantly violate human rights that, you know, they themselves made or signed. What system generates such will to just, you know, trash human rights? Is it corruption? Is it, you know, why? Why would they do that? You know, we can have a cool conversation with our governments and it would work better. So why?
So why did they do what they did? Huh? That's
sure.
the short version. Well, the reason that they have to frame you as an extremist or even worse as a terrorist is because otherwise they cannot do a lot of things. So following me at the street with, in plain clothes, like cops in plain clothes, that was not possible before they framed me as an extremist. So they have to give themselves possibilities. I mean, we're also getting into a situation that they even totally don't care about anymore if they do something illegal. So this is a trend which is very worrying. But so far, they still kind of like thinking about if this comes out, can we justify it? So then you get into a lot of gray zones and they upgrade you to an extremist because of some little things. And then they have more possibilities to spy on you. What I forgot to tell actually in my talk is that they also try to recruit, after I got the CTAR code, to recruit in my environment, in my close environment, somebody, an informant, to get information about me. And this was not possible if they would not have upgraded me to the extremist level. So that's why they need this.
If I may add something. First of all, you know, we often make these jokes about the fact that we have nothing to hide. When I met Frank, he told me that at some point he was like, but what do they have to hide? Like, how come it's impossible to just understand what's going on? And I'm also wondering how much this is tied with a kind of toxic patriarchy of like, when you make mistakes, never recognize your mistakes. Okay. Pretend that it was meant to be like this, you'll be fine.
Thank you a lot.
We have a question from the internet, please.
Yes, we have two questions. One question for Frank. How much of your life is really normal life, quote unquote, at this point, or is court litigation the sum of it?
Yeah, well, I've started as an activist for the climate and extreme right wing, against extreme right wing, etc. And once I went into finding out what is going on, the surveillance, etc. I have meanwhile dedicated my life totally to that, and I work on it 60, 70 hours a week. And I have made it my project. You know, I want to really know what happened, go into the details, because I said many times to the lawyers of the police, I said, you're really unlucky because I like the subject. And that freaks them out, which I like. And this is the thing, you know, a lot of activists don't like so much really this subject of surveillance. They want to be protesting for the climate or whatever. And I also really like the subject, so I think it's important that there are some people who really go into the details and really disclose all the structures. And I'm very willing to share that so that people can benefit from it. Yeah.
And you're helping people as well. Yeah. You're advising people as well.
Yeah.
Die zweite Frage?
Yes, then that's a question for Laurie. What is the name of the case from the French criminal court, and where can we find it?
Okay, so there are two very interesting. Which case? The case that happened in September. I don't know the case, but I can probably. Is it from internet, or can you come to me later and I can look for it?
It is a question on Matrix,
Online?
so you
okay. I'm open to finding ideas of how to publish this for people to use, but I can also just put it on the website of data rights in the section Defend the Defenders. I'll make, because most of the references that I used are on the Defend the Defenders page, so I'll add it there.
Okay, so we have 5 more minutes for a few questions. Over there are people lining up, please.
Hi, thank you very much for your talk. I have a question. Like, one of the way they get away with it is by disseminating responsibility across the organization. And we talk about the police, we talk about Europol, we talk about Interpol. But I think we shouldn't forget that those organizations are made of individuals. And is there a chance that rather than going against the organization, going against the individuals in these organizations who are violating the laws? And maybe like it would create a chilling effect on their side. Like if I do something that I shouldn't do, then I'm the one going to be held responsible. Yeah. Is this something that could work, or is the system rigged so much that it basically doesn't work?
Yeah, that's a very, very good point you raise, and that they are really worried about this. I can tell you also from my case, because they basically now at this moment want to give me a lot of money, but only if I drop the individual cases against police officers and civil servants within the municipality of Amsterdam. So indeed, they are worried about it. Of course, I'm not going to accept this money, let's be clear. But that is, this is what's going on now. Yeah. So I do think that it's very important to target as well the individual civil servants who do these things, because the police, what is the police? It's a bunch of people together in the end, right?
Okay, you're waiting quite a time. In red, please, the middle microphone.
Since we're running short on time, a very quick question to Lori. With our world increasingly turning more and more chaotic, do you see the public perception of unordinary protests and extreme protests, such as the ones that took place in France with the water wars, becoming more publicly accepted or seen less as crazed people? That would be my question.
Very interesting question. I guess the fact that there are organizations that are, putting themselves as neutral and then write reports because they had observers in that space is really helping. And by the way, the report is eye-opening, so at some point I will take a few days to translate it. But also something that happened around that time, I went to the UK and I met a few PhD students at the University of Oxford, and all of them were telling me, what's happening in France? You guys are leading the fight. This is incredible. And that was the first time I was hearing something so positive about it. So it was very interesting that I was in that space. So I guess it depends who is looking at it. But yeah, having organizations that go there and document and say, we have not seen this, is very important to help changing that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm afraid time's up and we have to end here, even though there are people waiting. Maybe they can contact you at stage and over here, everybody who's watching from the internet and having questions. Thank you very much for being here, and thank you very much, you too. Thanks.